Hi guys, welcome to this tutorial on JavaScript. In this video, I will talk about how we can create an awesome to-do list application in core vanilla JavaScript. And an awesome thing about this video is that I will be using the concepts of object-oriented programming, like creating classes, creating the objects out of those classes, and building the logic for this cool, simple, note-taking to-do list application. All right. So first of all, I'll be creating an HTML file, CSS file. I'll be creating some class files for this to-do list application. Then I'll create a script file that will be using the UI, the design, and then the class file for this to-do list application. And we can actually implement this awesome, simple application. So first of all, let's first create an index.html. And then I'll be creating a file styles.css. And the third file I'll be creating is the script.js. So let's create a class file and I will name it to-do-list.js. Okay. So first of all, I will be building this simple UI for this text box, button, and the list of all the added to-dos. Also, I'll be managing the local storage, means that when we add or delete or edit any of these to-dos, it will be persisted in our browser, means that whenever we will refresh our page, it will not be reinitialized with the default initial state of this to-do list data. Okay, so now I'm gonna create some UI. First of all, let's add the doc type. Then let's create an HTML and let's add a head tag, and inside the head I'll be giving it the title. So to do list app, and below the title I will be adding that styles. So rel style sheet href, and I'll be giving it the styles.css, which is the name of the styles file which I've just created. And then I'll be giving it the type. The type would be text/css. Okay, so after this head tag, I'll be creating the body tag, and in the body tag, I will be first creating the div. And inside the div, let's create an h1 for the title of that rectangle. So to-do list app, which is the title. And below this, let's create an input, and it is of type text. Let's give it an ID of text input, actually the task input. Okay, and then I'll be giving the placeholder. So enter a new task or to do, whatever it you want to add. Okay, so then I will be giving it a button ID equals to, and it will be the add button. Okay, and I will give it add text inside it. All right, so then I will be giving a placeholder for listing out all of the to-dos in here. But first of all, let's add a parent UL element, and the rest of li elements inside it, I will be handling it through the JavaScript file. Okay, so I will write ID task list, and then let's close this UL. After this, I need to add the scripts. Let's add the script JavaScript type, and then I will be giving it the source. So let's add the source of to-do list, which I've just created. Okay, so after this, I'll be adding the reference to that script.js file. So script.js. Okay, make sure you spell it right, and let's save this file. And that's pretty much it we need to do in this file. One more thing, let's try to add a class because we want to design it a bit. So I'm going to give it a class with the container. Okay, so I don't think I need to add the classes in other elements. So let's save this file. Let's go to our, first of all, let's try to run our project, this file index.html. I'm using the live server extension of VS Code. So I'll just right click anywhere on the index.html file, and I can click on open with live server. First of all, let's stop any of the live server which are already running in case. So now let's try to run it. And in our browser, we will see that this will be added over here. And currently I have not written any CSS. We need to make it look like this. All right, let's go to CSS file and write some design to this UI. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to add the body. font family, and let's give it Arial, and then sans serif. Okay. After this, I will give the margin 0, padding 0, background color. Let's give it RGB, and then let's give it a gray color. And now I will be just hovering over it, and I will make some changes to this color. Okay, any of this. All right. After this body, let's try to save it, and it will be automatically loaded in the browser. You can see the background is gray now. It's looking nice. In the body, first of all, I have added the class container in my main div element in my HTML file. This is the class. And in this container, I will give it the max width. And max width, I'm going to give it the 400 pixels. And then I'll be giving the margin 100 pixels and auto. Let's give the padding 20 pixels. Let's give the border 1 pixel, solid, and then the gray CCC. So let's give the border radius, and I would give the 5 pixels. And lastly, I need to give the background color. I can give any background color, but let's go with the white color to it. Okay, so let's save it and let's see what's happening. Yeah, so it is now center because we added this margin auto, and we have this white background color. All right, so now we need to style up this title and the text box and this button. Okay, so in the container below, I'm going to add the h1 which I added in my HTML, and I'm going to align the text center. And also I need to color up this with the dark gray color. All right, let's save it. Let's go. And it is of dark gray color now. All right, so now below this h1, I'm going to use the input type text. And then let's try to give the width of 80%, rest of 20% I want that add button to take. So I'm going to add the padding 10 pixels, font size 16 pixels, and border would be 1 pixels, solid, and this gray color. Okay, so let's add the border radius as well, which is 5 pixels. And also I'm going to give the box sizing, border box. Let's try to give the margin bottom 10 pixels. Okay, so let's go. And now you can see that it's looking pretty cool, and we need to style this button, add button now. So below this, let's try to import that button which we added in our index.html, and this is the button which we are gonna style up. So the button, we will be adding the background color to this button will be the blue color. So I'm going to add 007BFF. It is the hexa code of the blue color. And I'm going to add the width of the 60 pixels. And also the color has to be the white, which is the text color. Let's avoid adding any border to it. Let's add the padding 12 pixels and the 15 pixels. Let's try to add the margin left, and it is the 5 pixels, and also the border radius of 5 pixels. And lastly, I'm going to add the cursor pointer. Okay, let's save it. And if I go over here, you can see that it's looking pretty cool. We have this text box and this title. All right, so below this, let's try to add some hover effect to it. And let's add the button colon hover. And for this, I'm going to add the background color. And the background color, I need to make it a little darker. So I'll be adding 0056B3. It is blue color, but it is a bit darker. Okay, so now we need to go over here, and we have this cool looking app. Now In our list, we have this title, we have this edit button and the delete button, and we have this horizontal line below. So let's try to design it as well. Currently it will not show anything, but we will be writing to load this data later on when we will write the JavaScript. Okay, so first of all, let's try to add that edit button, which we will be adding through JavaScript directly, and button dot edit button, which will be the class we'll be adding to it. So edit button, and then we will be having the button edit button hover, and by default the edit color would be this, which I've added on the actual add button, and the hover button background color will be this. Okay, so let's try to copy this for the delete button. So for the delete button, let's try to change its class name and also change its class name as well. And for the delete button, I will change the color of it to red. So F333, and also I would like to increase the width of it like the 70 pixels. And for this hover button, I will also be increasing its color when we will hover over the delete button. So I will write CC and then the tetra 0. It will be a darker red here. Okay, so now what I need to do is I need to design a few UL. So list style type, which would be the none, and then I will be giving it the padding 0. Okay, and lastly what we need to do is we need to add some li, which will be dynamically added through JavaScript. So I'll be writing the display flex, and the justify content would be the space between, and align items would be center, and let's add the padding to it, 12 pixels and the 10 pixels, and the border bottom 1 pixels, solid, and then this. Lastly, I need to add some transition if I want to add. Let's don't add this. Okay, I think we are done with the styling. And if I go here, currently you can't see anything because it is not loading up. First of all, what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to build a class, and this is where our actual logic is going to get started. First of all, I will be writing some code in the to-do list class, and I'll be creating a class, and inside the class I need to create different functions and the constructor for adding a node, deleting, editing, loading up the data from the local storage, storing the data in the local storage. So let's create a class. So for creating a class in JavaScript, we use the keyword class, and I can give it name to-do list. Okay. The first function, if you have learned the object-oriented programming in any other language, you know that the constructor is a function which is initialized by this keyword, which is the predefined keyword. You can't change its name. It will be automatically triggered whenever the new object or a new instance of this class gets created. Okay, so in this constructor, I will be defining the tasks variable with an empty array. So this task variable will be assigned to every object of this class that will be created, and I will be using this class instance within this script.js file. Okay, so after this constructor, let's try to add a task, and task text. So let's try to create an object which I'll be storing it and pushing it in the this.tasks array which I have initialized above constructor. Okay, so const task equals to this, so text colon task text. Okay, after this I'm going to write this dot tasks dot push tasks, and then I need to create a function for storing it into the local storage. But first of all, I'm going to create a new function for rendering the tasks. So render tasks. So let's now create a new function, and I'm going to name it render task, and its responsibility would be to actually create the li tags under this ul element and load the title, edit button and delete button below this text box and the add button, just like this. Okay, so let's go in that function, and I'm going to define a function render tasks, and it will be a little longer function. So let's try to first get that task list ID which I've defined above. This is the task list because I want to append all the children li elements within this ul element. So const task list equals to document dot get element by id and then the task list. Okay, so now I will be adding the task list dot inner html equals to empty string, and then I will be iterating through each of the task list which are added. So I'm going to write this dot tasks dot for each, and it will take a task and an index. So let's use the arrow function, and inside the arrow function I'll be writing the list item equals to the create element, and in the create element I'll be creating the li tags within the ul elements. Okay, so in the li elements, which is the list item, okay, I will be writing the inner html. I'll be using the character above the tab keyword on your keyboard. Hit enter, and inside it I'll be writing multiple lines. First of all, I need to show the text of the node, so I'll be writing the span $, and then the task dot text and then the span. Okay, and after this let's have another span. Okay, so inside this span I'm going to create two buttons for edit and the delete. So first of all, let's try to give it a class, and the class name should be exactly same which we added in our CSS file, okay, which was the edit button class. Okay, and then I'll be writing the on click, and the on click will be taking the for now let's don't add it because we have not initialized any functions for on clicking. And once we're adding it, we will be passing few props inside it, and also let's try to close it for now, and I'm gonna give the edit button. So let's try to copy it and add its new value in below this. So delete button, on click, and then the delete. Okay, so let's save it, and currently whenever our this class gets initialized using an object, we need to call this render tasks, and I will be doing it within this script.js file. I have not yet implemented local storage data or deleting, editing tasks. This is just two functions: adding a new task and render the task means just show these tasks which are added below this text box and the button. Okay, so in the script I'm going to first create an instance of this to do class. So to do list equals to new to do list class. It has been added. One more thing I would like to explain here, that you can see that first I have actually imported the to do list.js file, and then after this I have actually initialized that script.js file. The reason is that if I used to write this line script.js file above to do list file, then it will throw an error that it cannot find this to do list class, because to-do list class is loading after the script.js file. So make sure the sequence of importing the files in your HTML really matters. The independent JavaScript files should be added first, and all the dependent JavaScript files should be after that, which are using some functions or the classes of the previous files which have to be added before. Okay, so now I'm going to create a function, and inside it I'll be adding the add task. So const task input and document dot get element by id and then the task input. Okay, then const task text equals to task input dot value dot trim. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to check if the task is not empty. I don't want to add an empty to do in the list. So I'm going to add the text dot length is greater than 0. Okay. And we can also add not equals to empty string, and we can write both. So I can write the to-do list dot add task and then the task text which is added over here. All right, and then I will make it empty. Task input dot value equals to the empty. Okay, so that's it for this function. Now we need to call this function to actually use this object and get the value from the text box, which is this task input, and call the function add task, pass the value and store the value in the array of this class. And then we will be rendering that function, which is this load tasks, render the tasks actually. Okay, so now in the script, after this I'm going to add document.getElement by id add button dot add event listener click and the add task. Okay, which this add button is this which I added, and I'm just enabling the click event on this add button. So whenever we are going to click this button, we will be triggering this function add task and it will handle this logic that we have written. Okay, so now let's try to add the document get element by id get element by id and then task input add event listener, and I can give the key down. So key down, and then I can receive the event. So in this event I will be checking if it is enter. So event dot key equals to enter, then I will be adding the add task function. So I've added two event listeners actually. Whenever this add button gets clicked or we write something in this text box and hit enter, then again in both the cases we want to call this function. All right, so lastly what we are going to do is we need to actually call the function which is from the local storage, but currently we have not written any function inside it that will fetch the data from the local storage. Okay, so first of all let's try to add some data inside it. So my first to do, hit enter, and it's not actually showing currently. The reason is that we have to actually call that render tasks function in our this function. All right, so I'm going to call that to-do list dot render tasks. After this line we need to go in the render tasks and we have to append these list items which is added over here in the task lists array. Okay, this is the array. All right, so I'm gonna go below this and I'm going to add the task list dot append child and then the list item. Okay, so I hope that it will show up in the UI. So I'm going to add my first to do. If I hit add, you can see that this title, the edit button and delete button are showing up, and let's try to add the second to do and hit enter now. And by entering and by clicking on this add button, our to-dos are added over here successfully. But currently if I refresh the page, it will be empty. The reason is that I'm not persisting the state of the data using the local storage. There are different ways we can use the database. We can use the local storage, session storage, or any other database mechanism to actually store the data, persist it. And whenever we close the tab or refresh the page, it should be loaded from that persisted data storage. Okay, so now in this script.js file, I'm going to create a new function in that class, but I'm going to name that function, you can say load tasks from local storage. So I'm going to add load tasks from local storage. Okay. And inside it, I will be taking all the tasks from the local storage which are being stored. And also I will be creating another function that will manage the save tasks to the local storage. So let's try to add that function first. So save tasks to local storage. Okay. So in this function, I'm going to write local storage dot set item and then the tasks and then JSON.stringify this dot tasks. Okay. And I can give any name to this keyword. It will be stored. This task is this array. And this is the keyword which I will use to fetch the data from the local storage. So in my load data from local storage, I will be writing the tasks. Let's name it stored tasks, local storage, and then the get item tasks. Okay. After this, after fetching the task from the local storage, I need to update this array in the constructor this dot task with this stored tasks. Okay. So now I will be writing this dot tasks and then the stored task, I will be parsing it. Okay. Also, I can actually add this check. If the task exists, then I will be storing it. Otherwise, I will just be putting it an empty array. Okay. And after the data is fetched, I want to re-render the UI over here. All right. So I can simply call this function which I have written below. All right. So when we will be adding the new to-dos in this list, we will be loading up the data through the local storage, which we will be saving over here. All right. So in order to save this, I will be come over here and I will call this function save data to the local storage. And I can use this keyword because this belongs to all the objects, the functions written in this class. Okay. So one more thing I need to do is whenever I refresh the page, it should automatically call this load task from local storage and trigger this code so that it can render over code over UI for the stored task in the local storage and show it over here. So I can do it over script.js file. And I can check if the document is fully loaded after page is refreshed. So I can check it using the document dot add event listener. And I can give it DOM content loaded and it will make sure that the document is fully loaded. And after this, we will be triggering any code, whatever we want to write inside it. So I can use the object instance of that class, which I have created, which is the to-do list. And I can write to-do list dot load tasks from local storage. All right. So let's save it now. And let's save both of these files. Let's go, let's refresh. And now my first to do, hit enter. My second to do, hit enter. And if I go and show you the local storage, what do I mean by that? I can go right click and inspect, go to the application, and inside the application, I have this thing. Okay. And here you can see that we have these tasks automatically created in our local storage. And below that, you can see that these two objects for to do have been added over here. All right. And now if I refresh the page, it should call this function load tasks from local storage, update this array, and then this array is going to iterate through and load up the data which is stored in the local storage. So I'll refresh the page. It has not actually loaded. Let's go to the console. There seems an error, reference error, rendered tasks is not defined. Okay, so let's see rendered tasks. This one. So I have to use this keyword over here. All right. So now if I refresh now, it will fetch the data from local storage and show all the to-dos below this text box and this add button. Okay. So guys, we are done with loading the task, storing the task in our local storage. And we are also covering up how we can use the object-oriented programming technique in JavaScript. I'm going to add now couple of more functions, as you know, for editing and deleting the tasks. And I'll come here and I will write the edit task, and it will take an index of the to do which I want to delete, and then the new text. Okay, so this dot tasks index dot text equals to new text. Okay, I'm updating the task. Now I need to store it in the local storage. So I can write this dot save to local storage, and all the data in the tasks will be saved in the local storage. Now let's try to add call the render tasks function. Okay, but I need to call this function based upon this edit button click. I need to call this function. Currently, if I come here, I have this empty on click function. So what I can do is I can actually open up a prompt. In JavaScript, we can open up a prompt and fetch the data in that prompt using a text box. And whenever we click on the done button on that prompt, we can receive the data in any variable through that. So in the on click function, I can use this actually to do list dot edit task, and this is a function which I have created, and I'll be adding the parentheses, so I can write the $, and then I can write the index. So you can see I need to pass the index as well as the new text, and the new text I can fetch from that prompt function which is provided by JavaScript by default. So I can write the edit task colon, and then I will write a comma, and in this edit task I can write the task dot text. So I will be writing the $, and task dot text. I will close it over here. So I hope that there is no syntax error over here, and it will work as I expecting. So let's go, let's refresh, let's try to click on the edit, and now you can see that it has successfully loaded up this title and this text box, my first to do. Let's try to add a 1 after that and click on OK, and now you can see that this has been updated over here. The reason is that it must be updated in the local storage as well. So if I go over here, you can see that it is added in the local storage as well. So that's why it's showing over here. So our edit functionality is working fine. Finally, we need to add this delete function. So I will be creating a new function, and I will name it delete task. Okay, and it will receive so it will receive an index which I want to delete. So I can use the JavaScript function splice for deleting that, and I can use the save to do, and then I can render the task just like the edit function. And just like the edit function, I need to call it in my rendered HTML. So I can write the to-do list dot delete task, and inside it I will be passing up that index only. So I'll be using the $, and then the index. Okay, so let's save it, let's refresh, and if I want to delete the second to do, I can click on it, and you can see that it has been deleted, and also it has been deleted from the local storage as well. You can see on the right screen as well. So our delete functionality, if I keep on writing, let's try to add as much to do's as I want. So it's keep on adding over here, and it's keep on adding in the local storage as well. All right, there is one UI stuff which I need to add. I don't want this horizontal line to be shown after the last to do, which is showing below this last line. Okay, so let's go to our CSS, and in the CSS I can use the li colon, and I can write the last child. So I can write the border bottom none. Okay, let's save it and let's go. You can see that it has been removed and it's looking pretty cool. Let's try to delete that, and our functionality is working fine. Let's try to refresh, and our data is persisted through the local storage, and only the 3 items are being shown up over here. All right, so one last thing I would like to explain here. You might be thinking that why I'm using this to-do list instance which is not even created in this file, which is created in this script over here. Okay, so the reason is that whenever this render tasks function gets triggered, actually this render task function, if I go over here, you can see that in here I'm actually calling this to-do list load task from local storage. Okay, and this function is being called from here, and also while adding the task, this render task is function from here as well. So whenever any HTML gets generated from that any of the class in the JavaScript, that HTML can be used as an instance of this class. So if we need to write a JavaScript inside that HTML, it can be inside the onClick, it can be inside the onChange or any event handler. The instance of this class will be available into that. Means that the script file which is actually calling this render tasks, whatever the variables exist in that script file will be available in the HTML files which are added over here. All right, so I think we are done. If anything needs to be improved, you can look into it. But I'm done with the basic functionality. The purpose of this video was to explain you how the classes works in JavaScript, what is the constructor, how we can add the different functions and create multiple instances of this class. So if there are more than one scripts like script 1.js, script 2.js, we can actually create as much instances of this to-do list class as we want. Just like if I copy over here, and we can have another instance of this class. So this is the benefit of this class, that each of these variable will have their separate states. Means that to-do list might have the two to-do tasks, but to-do list 1 might have 5 tasks inside it. So these are not linked with each other. These are the separate instance, separate copies of this. Okay, so I think you have understood it completely, and you can modify it as you want. Further, I did not really fully focused on the UI, as if I talk about the responsiveness, it will not work correctly in the mobile screens. As you can see that you can make it responsive, but the purpose of this video was to explain you how to do the DOM manipulation and the classes, and add some logic inside it, load the UI directly within the JavaScript. All right, so if you have liked my video, don't forget to subscribe my channel, hit the like button and hit the bell icon as well, so you get the notification for upcoming videos. Keep watching my videos and see you in the next videos.